Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Let's Translate Manga. I almost said Let's Translate Light Novels because that was the last one of these series I did, but this is manga. Okay, first off, I have to apologize for any weird noises you might be hearing in the background because I've got my dishwasher going and then my neighbor's just outside my window repairing their car. So you might hear some occasional clunking noises and whooshing noises and gurgling noises. Sorry, it is what it is. I thought I was going to be recording this in a different room, but my husband went back to bed, so I have to do it out here with all the noises. Anyway, but basically the premise of this series, it's similar to Let's Translate Light Novels, another series I have on this channel, where I let my $5 patrons vote and then translate a manga of their choice. Not the whole manga, just a few pages. The objective of this is just to give people a little practice in translating, to show other people how translation works, and to teach people Japanese. It's a win-win-win. The objective of this series is not to, translate a series of manga outside of professional or commercial means. We always take series of manga that are not commercially licensed in English, and we only translate a very, very small sample from what is available for free anyway on Bookwalker. So the manga this time that we're translating is Furare Girl. It's a shoujo manga series that Colleen of Colleen's Manga Rex keeps raving about, and so I've been meaning to check it out myself. And I did read the first couple volumes a couple days ago, and it is very cute and hilarious. Very cute little shoujo manga series, and because of the yen-dollar exchange rate, it's pretty cheap right now. You can buy each volume for like $3.50 or $3, so I encourage you to, buy one of the volumes and check it out if you liked what you saw in this episode. So in this particular episode, we have 4 patrons, and I will credit them if they want to be credited in the video description. So a little bit about me, if you're completely new to this channel or this series. I do translate manga professionally, although I started translating manga professionally only about a year ago, so I'm still relatively new to it myself, although I have been translating games, anime, and light novels professionally longer than that. Well, light novels I'm also relatively new, but anime and games I go back almost 20 years professional experience. But having said that, I am not the supreme authority on translation or on translating manga, so any notes that I give in this are really just my subjective opinion. As a manga fan and as a manga translator, if I say that a word sounded weird to me, it just sounded weird to me. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. If I said that I really liked the way a translation was worded, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best way that you could ever translate it. Take all of my, comments with grains of salt. But I will try to give notes that are sort of like the industry standard, and I will try to be clear when I'm saying something as an industry standard. It's not necessarily something that I personally agree with, but that it's something that, that the industry wants. Having said all of that, let's get to the translations. And somebody will comment, video starts at 3:30 or whatever. Okay, so I have not looked at these translations yet. This is actually my first time looking at them because I wanted to give my genuine first impression of it. Okay, so Furare Girl. We start with this page here, which I'm going to put on the screen. I know you've been putting up with my disembodied voice and avatar all this time. Sorry I'm not showing my face in these videos. It's just it's the end of the day. I don't want to put on makeup, and then I'm just so not in the mood. To set up my lights and put on makeup or anything, especially when most of the video I can't show my face anyway because I have to show the manga and the translations. Anyway, so the first line of narration in the box, Shou-san no toki, hajimete tsuita adana wa Monroe. Shou-san is Shougaku-san Nensei. It's the abbreviation of that, so the 3rd year of elementary school. No toki, when I was in my 3rd year of elementary school. Hajimete tsuita adana wa, the first nickname that was given to me or that I got was Monroe. And then there's a little picture of Marilyn Monroe, that iconic one with the skirt flying up. And then there's a kid next to her that's saying, Kore omae ni nite ne. The ne is more like short for nei, which is nite ne, which is slang for nite nai. So, hey, doesn't this kind of look like you? Basically, is what that kid is saying. Then narration. 今までに君いくらと聞かれた回数は数えきれない。おかげで ikura ga kirai ni natta. So this is a little joke. The next box says, ikura ni tsumi wa nai no ni. I'm very curious. I'm probably going to name this episode something like How to Translate Wordplay from Japanese to English, because like on the very first page, boom, you're hit with a problem. How do you make this joke work in English? So, kimi ikura means how much do you cost? It's a common phrase directed at sex workers. Yay! Pretty cliche, like you'll see that a lot in manga and anime. So, kimi ikura to kikareta kaisu, the number of times that I have been asked the question, how much do you cost? Up until now, imamade ni. Kazue kirenai, there's just too many to count. So I can't count the number of times that I've been asked the question, how much do you cost, babe? Okage de ikura ga kirai ni natta. So thanks to that, or because of that, due to that, I now hate ikura. So ikura in the first case is how much do you cost. Ikura in the second case is salmon roe, salmon eggs, at the sushi place. And then the next box, ikura ni tsumi wa nai no ni. Tsumi wa nai means no sin, so like it's not ikura's fault. Like ikura's innocent. Like too bad. This no ni at the end is sort of like, oh, what a shame. Too bad. It's like even though ikura is sinless or blameless in all of this, the poor thing gets hated. It's that sort of vibe to it. And then somebody off screen is saying, "Nee-chan, ikura don kuan no?" So, hey sis, aren't you going to eat your ikura don, your ikura bowl? And then in the next frame, there's this guy. She's older, and now this guy's like, "Chotto michi o kikitakute." It's like, hey, I just wanted to ask you for some directions, ... Or like, hey, can you give me some directions? Can you tell me where this is? And then the narration box says, "Taitei no otoko no hito wa mune to shabetteru no te kurai mesen ga awanai shi." So, taitei no otoko no hito wa, most men are kind of like, te kurai mune to shabetteru no? Like, are you talking to my boobs? Mesen ga awanai shi. That their eyes lines don't match my eyes to the point that it makes me wonder, like, what are you talking to my boobs? So that's the entire first page. So I wasn't exactly giving you guys like my translations that I would have given as a professional translator. I'm more giving you interpretations, just kind of the first thing that comes to my mind that I'm blurting out. What I said was not necessarily the best way of wording all of these things, especially for a comic where you want lines to be punchy and short and funny when they need to be funny. The only note that I'm going to give now, this whole ikura thing, I am curious to see how everybody else renders this joke. I thought of a way of doing this when I first read this, actually, in Japanese, and when everybody voted for this. Something pretty cool about salmon roe. If you say salmon roe and just omit the sa, it becomes Monroe. So I would have just rendered this probably as every time, I can't count the number of times somebody has called me Monroe. Just going along with the very last thing that happened in the manga. And thanks to that, I hate salmon roe. I think that's a pretty easy fix. But when you're translating puns and wordplay, it's the same way as making an original pun or wordplay in English. You have to look at the two things that you're trying to connect and find ways of connecting them. So in this case, it's soliciting somebody for sex work and ikura. And what you do is you do a word association game. You think about all of the other things that one could associate with soliciting somebody for sex work. And then you think of all of the other things that you could associate with ikura, salmon roe, and then see if you can make any connections. So like salmon roe, you could think sushi, eggs, seafood, salmon, fish. In the picture, she's just holding a bowl of salmon roe. It doesn't even necessarily have to be salmon roe. Like, what else does it look like? It could be grapes. You could get kind of creative. And then just see if you can make any connections with any of those words and soliciting somebody for sex work. It doesn't have to be as specific as soliciting somebody for sex work either. It could be catcalling, anything kind of related to that. The point is people sexualize her against her will. She doesn't like that, and it's made her very insecure. Anyway, I've talked so much and explained so much about this. Now let's look at everybody's translations. Okay, so patron A, for Hibiki's narration, in my 3rd year of elementary school, I got my first nickname, Monroe. And then the boy says, she's kind of like you, huh? And then patron B said, Hibiki narration, in 3rd grade, I got my first nickname, Monroe. She looks kind of like you. All right, notice patron A made it a question. She's kind of like you, huh? And patron B, she kind of looks like you. That's the main difference. Although also patron A is wordier. In my 3rd year of elementary school, I got my first nickname Monroe versus patron B. In 3rd grade, I got my first nickname. In 3rd grade is shorter than in my 3rd year of elementary school. But otherwise, they're pretty much the same. Patron C, in 3rd grade, my very first nickname was Monroe. So a little bit different. Instead of I got my first nickname, it's just my very first nickname was. It technically means the same thing. And the boy says, she kind of looks like you. So it's exactly the same as patron B, minus the ellipse. And then patron D, in 3rd grade, I got my first nickname, Monroe. Small boy, looks like you, right? So yeah, looking at these, in general, like I said with manga translations, we want to keep them shorter, not to the point that you sacrifice the meaning or the feeling of the scene. But yeah, rendering Shou-san as 3rd grade instead of my 3rd year of elementary school is a great example of how to make something shorter. It's just, it reads better, it reads faster, and it fits into the little speech bubble / balloon better. So again, this is an industry note. And I actually agree with this, but yeah, we want to keep these shorter without sacrificing the meaning, but yeah, shorter is good. She looks kind of like you, huh? She kind of looks like you, right? Yeah, I sort of see it as, hey, doesn't that thing look like you? Or hey, that looks like you. Yeah, I mean, the kid's just pointing it out to her. And I think that's sort of like going over like a flashback of how she got the nickname. They were probably looking at it in an art gallery or something, and the kid was like, whoa, she kind of looks like you. So yeah, it really only comes down to just what kind of sounds better to you. I like she kind of looks like you. I think a hey would be nice. Hey, she kind of looks like you. Make it a little more like whoa. Or whoa, she kind of looks like you. Would be kind of cool. Looks like you, right? That's more like asking her for confirmation, I guess, which also makes sense. Maybe she already got the nickname, and now this other kid is like, see? I mean, she looks like you. Don't you get it? That's why we call you Monroe. She's kind of like you. She's kind of like you is a little weird, I find, in the wording. It is more that she looks like you, not she's like you. We don't know if Marilyn Monroe is like Hibiki in personality. Just note the differences and what that sounds like. But yeah, patron D's works if you assume that this is after she's already received her nickname and the kid's like. Otherwise, to me, it's a little confusing. Looks like you, right? I don't know. I think I'm just being overly nitpicky. They're all fine. The next one. So patron A, I've lost track of how many times I've been asked how much for a night out. Ikura? It's made me hate salmon roe. Ikura. Even though it hasn't done anything wrong. Off-panel speaker, Hibiki, you're not going to eat your salmon roe bowl? Okay, so that's patron A's rendering of the Ikura joke. Let's look at patron B's. If I had an egg for every time I got asked how much, I could fill a bowl with salmon roe. Now Ikura makes me gag. Hey sis, you gonna eat that? Okay. Like, I know I said I wasn't gonna give notes until after I read all the translations, but just note, like, patron B's is funny. It's a joke still, and it works. And that was one way of working it. Whereas patron A did the literal thing. This is something, that fan translators and scanlators would be more likely to do. And again, it's not necessarily wrong. I personally don't like that. I think if it's a joke and it's supposed to be funny, it had better dang be funny in English, and it had better be a joke in English. But that doesn't mean that you should never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, translate things literally like this. There is always a time and a place. Okay, patron C. I've heard how much do go, Monroe? That is weird. I don't get it. How much do go? Could be a typo. How much to go, Monroe? How much do you go, Monroe? Probably was trying to make it rhyme or something. It's just not working for me. I've heard how much do go, Monroe? So many times I've come to hate salmon roe. So patron C did what I actually thought of, so that's cool. Even if it did nothing wrong. Are you gonna eat that bowl of roe, lady? Yeah, so ne-chan, it's not always sis. Sometimes it actually is, like, lady, hey person. How's she dressed? She looks like she's dressed quite casually, so it probably is a younger sibling calling her sis. Because she wouldn't necessarily, I don't know, to me she looks like she's casually dressed, so I don't know that she'd be out like at a restaurant dressed like that eating her. But I'm not sure. It's not necessarily wrong. Okay, and then patron D. People constantly ask me, how old are you? So now I hate that question. I hear it everywhere. Robo for you, okay. Yeah, I don't think that this one works quite as well as if I had an egg for every time I got asked how much. Although, if I had an egg, is that actually an expression in English? It flows well and it works as I read it in the manga. If I had an egg. If you have an egg, you have hope. Weight Watchers. That's like the first link I got Googled. Okay, I don't think it's a saying, but I mean, you know, it's like if I had a nickel, if I had an egg. It still kind of works for me. But patron C did the one that I thought of, so they're automatically correct. No, that's not true. There are a number of ways you could do this, but this is interesting, seeing what everybody did. Rice bowl, robo for you. It does kind of sound like how old are you? That's the kind of joke or rendering that would work a little bit better if it was voice acted. Yeah, I think all in all, as a jokey exchange and how funnily it reads, for me, patron B's is like the snappiest and kind of the funniest. If I had an egg for every time I got asked how much, I could fill a bowl with salmon roe. Now Ikura makes me gag. Instead of just saying, now I have come to hate Ikura, which is more a literal translation. Now Ikura makes me gag is nice. Hey sis, I think hey sis, you gonna eat that is probably what does it for me. It's very punchliney. It really ties the whole thing up really nicely in a bow. Are you gonna eat that bowl of roe, lady? Also does kind of tie it up in a bow. I was just thrown off a little bit because I assumed that Neichan meant sis, but yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that. Even if it did nothing wrong is kind of odd. Again, yeah, that no ni at the end does sort of have a even though or even if, but it has more like a what a pity or what a shame. It's like, poor salmon roe, it didn't do anything wrong. It didn't deserve this treatment. It didn't deserve this. It didn't ask to be, to have this association. It's more that vibe. Even if it did nothing wrong is correct. Technically, it just doesn't, it's not as zippy. People constantly ask me, how old are you? So now I hate that question. I hear it everywhere. Yeah, this is more a very I am going to preserve the joke and I'm going to preserve the wordplay. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't go with the Japanese. And yeah, that is the correct attitude to have, I feel, with this kind of situation. You really want to preserve the joke. And I mean, even patron A's technically works, right? It's correct. I've lost track of how many times I've been asked passive voice. We typically want to avoid that. But, it's not always wrong, having said that. How much for a night out? It's made me hate salmon roe, and you have the ikura in parentheses, even though it hasn't done anything wrong. Hibiki, you're not going to eat your salmon roe bowl. Yeah, and rendering Neichan as Hibiki is perfectly fine too. That's just her name. So interesting how we all rendered the joke. Okay, the next line's a dialogue on the page. Excuse me, miss, could you tell me how to get to ... I always feel like men are talking to my chest. They never look me in the eyes. Patron B. Hey, could you tell me how to get to ... Guys usually just skip my eyes and look straight at my boobs. Funny. I chuckled. Patron C. Can I ask you for directions? Hibiki narration. Most boys just talk to me staring at my boobs and don't even look at my face. And patron D. Can you tell me how to get to... On top of that, most men skip my eyes and talk directly to my chest. Ooh, interesting how two people both said skip my eyes and talk directly. I like that wording too. I think it's really funny. Yeah, patrons B and D. Just skip my eyes and look straight at my boobs or chest. I think boobs is funnier than chest, but it's not, neither is right or wrong. And say Mune is technically more chest than boobs, although frequently it does mean boobs. I like the more, can you tell me how to get to, hey, could you tell me how to get to, excuse me, miss, could you tell me how to get to, I prefer those over, can I ask you for directions? Can I ask you for directions is a little too exposition-y. It's not how a person would actually ask somebody else for directions. I always feel like men are talking to my chest, they never look me in the eyes. Note how long that is, and it's 2 separate sentences. It's not really funny. And I feel like this scene is supposed to be funny. And again, this is where like combining things into, more concise thoughts or into one sentence tends to work a little better. On top of that, most men skip my eyes and talk directly to my chest. Also, I like the M dash after, can you tell me how to get to? Yeah, you don't always want to render an ellipses as an ellipses. Sometimes you want to render it as an M dash. Some of that'll come down to your editor too. They might change it. Just for reference, an ellipses in English, it'll always give a sort of like trail-offy sort of vibe, whereas an M dash is more like it's opening up somebody else to interrupt. And since Hibiki is interrupting him in her narration for the punchline, it's like on top of that, they just talk straight past my face and directly to my boobs. I think visually as a reader an M dash works better. But again, I think that's more of a personal preference thing. Okay, the next page in the Japanese, this is narration, Akasaka Hibiki, Ko-san. So Akasaka Hibiki is her name, Ko-san, just like Sho-san was third year of elementary school, Ko-san is third year of high school, so senior high school basically, senior in high school. Sengetsu daisuki datta kareshi ni mo furareta. So last month I got dumped by the boyfriend that I loved so much. Ryu wa kimi no iroke wa muneyake suru. So Ryu, the reason is your iroke, your sex appeal, your hormones, your sexiness, your hotness. Muneyake suru is like to give somebody heartburn. So I might render that as like burns my heart or something. It gives me heartburn is fine though. Okay, and then next panel, a guy who is blushing is saying, Akasaka-san, ore, sono, ore. And then the small tsu at the end of that speech bubble is noting that he's sort of gasping silently at the end of that because he's nervous. And she's still going on in her narration. This is after her heartburn comment, watashi wa yakiniku ka? It's like, what am I, yakiniku? Which is Korean barbecue, or grilled meat, or, whatever. Next panel, the guy is bowing and holding out his hand. Oh, ore no aijin ni natte kudasai. Kanojo janakute. So, ore no aijin ni natte kudasai is like, please be my mistress. Aijin is like, yeah, it's a mistress. It's like a person that a spouse is cheating on their spouse with. So a mistress in that way. Kanojo janakute, like, don't you mean girlfriend? Okay, let's see how the patrons rendered all of these. Patron A, I'm Akasaka Hibiki, a third-year high school student, and last month my boyfriend dumped me, even though I loved him. The reason he gave? You're too sexy. It gives me heartburn. Okay, patron B, I'm Hibiki Akasaka, high school senior, and last month I got dumped by the guy I really liked. His reason? You're so sexy I get heartburn. Patron C, I'm Hibiki Akasaka, 11th grader, and last month I was dumped by the guy I loved so much. He told me that my sexiness gave him heartburn. Patron D, high school, third year, Hibiki Akasaka. Last month, my boyfriend dumped me. His reason? You're so hot, it gives me heartburn. So in the Japanese, it is a little more like, oh god, and like manga and anime narration and stuff does this a lot. It'll be like, character name, third year of high school, kotoshi mo, yuku. Like, I don't know, it'll be like this very like short, punchy, like person's name, their year in high school, or their job title, and like this month or this year, they're doing yada yada. It really has that vibe to it. So patron D's like shortness here, like high school, third year, Hibiki Akasaka. Last month, my boyfriend dumped me. His reason, you're so hot, it gives me heartburn. It's almost like a character description, I guess, is kind of the vibe we're getting. And it works in that way because that's kind of how it was in Japanese. I'm Hibiki Akasaka, 11th grader. 11th grader is a little weird for a couple reasons. It's always a dilemma how to render stuff like ko-san or chu-ni and stuff like that, since the Japanese school system is different from school systems in other countries. You could say, I would personally go with high school senior for ko-san. I mean, she's in her last year of high school. I think that's somewhat significant. It's also not necessarily 11th grade either, because there's 3 years of middle school. Your third year of high school in Japan actually is the equivalent to 12th grade in the US at least. So it's a little vague to say 11th grader. High school third year is the safe choice, and it's like the most explicit. But yeah, I personally like high school senior, like Patron B did. Patrons A and D did the more literal, safe rendering of third year high school. But yeah, 11th grader is, I wouldn't personally go with that. Again, it's nitpicky. I don't know that it particularly matters, although I do think that she's in her last year of high school is somewhat significant, because, you know, she's kind of old-ish for a teenager. Last month I was dumped. Okay, Patron A. Last month my boyfriend dumped me even though I loved him. It wasn't exactly even though I loved him. It's more they're modifying the boyfriend. The boyfriend whom I loved very much dumped me, which is kind of a mouthful and does sound weird, but it wasn't even though I loved him, he dumped me. It was just I loved him and he dumped me kind of thing. And it's not like wrong. It just doesn't have quite the vibe. Last month I got dumped by the guy I really liked. Again, the passive voice. In Japanese it was passive. I got dumped, but the guy I really liked dumped me is a little stronger usually. It doesn't mean you should never use passive voice. I'm just like reminding that that's usually the standard to not use passive voice. I got my heart broken would work a little better, but she literally was dumped, like she was dating him and he dumped her. Last month I was dumped by the guy I loved so much. I like that. It's stronger. The stakes are higher. Also, if you do read ahead in the series, she really was opening her heart to him and really, really falling for him. And then, so it made her very insecure and scared to love again. So this actually is better. It's actually, again, you would only know that if you read ahead, and that's why it's really important to be able to read ahead when you're translating something. So Patron C's is stronger there. Last month, my boyfriend dumped me. Patron D didn't even say, I loved him very much, which is okay. It's not necessarily important yet. That the audience knows that she loved him. I would have tried to maybe find a way to work it in there some way though. But it reads very well on its own, without considering the Japanese. Last month, my boyfriend dumped me. His reason? You're so hot, it gives me heartburn. I really like his reason? You're so hot, it gives me heartburn. Incidentally, this is a pretty clever way to word, to maintain the order of Japanese wording in sentences. Diyu wa kimi no iroke wa muneyake suru. In English, we might render that as his reason was blah de blah de blah, but you can eliminate a word and make it shorter and punchier. His reason? Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. By making the first part of it a question like that, a nice short question, and then following up with an answer. That's a really cool way of rendering that. And Patron A did that too. But again, notice, the reason he gave, you don't need he gave, just the reason or his reason. You're too sexy, it gives me heartburn. You're so hot, it gives me heartburn. I really prefer you're so hot, again, that it gives me heartburn, because wordplay. It's wordplay that didn't exactly exist in the Japanese, but it's always good to sneak in a tiny bit of wordplay here and there if it's already that kind of series, which this is. And it just logically follows. You're so hot, it gives me heartburn. Okay, so Patron A, and my dishwasher stopped, yay! Hopefully the ambient noise is gone. Okay, Patron A. Akasaka-san, narration. Am I just a piece of meat? I like that. Patron B. Hibiki? Would you, that is, what am I, barbecue? Patron C. Hibiki, will, please. Am I grilled beef to them? And then Patron D. Akasaka-san, I wanted to ask, what am I, meat? Yeah, so to see how well that punchline work, you have to combine it with the former thing. So the Patron A, the reason he gave, you're too sexy, it gives me heartburn. Am I just a piece of meat? I'm gonna insert here, if we were really, localizing it with a capital L, this is one of those instances where we might, if this were an Americanized localization, for example, we might say, what am I, chili? It's like some other food that gives people heartburn. What am I, a burrito? What am I, nachos? If you wanted to be really, really brave and wild and chaotic, You could make that kind of change, and I do think it would be a lot funnier for at least a Western audience. Meat also can give people heartburn though, so it's totally fine. And piece of meat is also nice because it has that double meaning in English, like a person's a piece of meat if they're, you know, just sexy to people. So I like that too. Patron B. His reason, you're so sexy I get heartburn. What am I, barbecue? I like that because barbecue, it is yakiniku. It's often translated as Korean barbecue. And I also like the barbecue because it implies meat and it also implies hot and burning. So I like that. I think that works. Patron C, he told me that my sexiness gave him heartburn. Am I grilled beef to them? That doesn't quite match. If you read them back to back like that, you'll see. It's more, am I grilled beef to him, not them. I think Patron C was thinking that she was talking about like men in general here, but she was more talking about the line that her ex gave when dumping her. And then Patron D, his reason, you're so hot it gives me heartburn. What am I, meat? I kind of like, what am I just a piece of meat? What am I, barbecue? I think works really well. What am I, a piece of meat? I think in this case you would need a piece of meat for that to work a little better. But what am I? Starting it with what am I? Thingy? Sarcastic. That works really well. Tonally. And then we have some differences here in what the boy is calling her. Patron A and D have him call her Akasaka-san. Patron B has him calling her Hibiki, and also Patron C. Now this is another one of those instances where it's important to read ahead because, oh my goodness, Japanese romances, especially shoujo, and josei as well, they have the trope where the guy will be calling the girl by a certain name for a while, and then to signify a big change, big evolution in their relationship, he'll call her by her first name or something different, right? And then it's this big moment or whatever. So it's actually pretty important to really consider what you want, the guy who's going to be the love interest to call the girl, that you really establish that. And again, if you read ahead a little bit, I think it's volume 2, one of them calls the other by a first name, and the other one gets all excited. So you need to be careful about what you have characters call each other right off the bat. But if this were simulpub, for example, and you were translating this as it was coming out, you wouldn't necessarily have the ability to read ahead and know that that was going to happen. So you'd have to commit to whatever choice you made here, and then hope and pray that you could make it work in future contexts. Depending on what publisher you work for, they might want you to not have the Akasaka-san in there. They might want you to leave that off. Yeah, if you were translating for a place that didn't like honorifics, I would probably go with Hibiki, because it's kind of weird to call her just Akasaka, just her last name by itself without any honorifics. In English, it's kind of I don't know, it's something kind of, friends do when they're being silly with each other. It's not something that he would call her. If this were taking place in a world where they were speaking English instead of Japanese. I would personally do Akasaka-san. Knowing my audience, they would probably be totes cool with him calling her a san. Yeah, and then the stuttering, whatever works well in the bubbles. Stuttering is stuttering. Okay, so the next page, Patron A, Hibiki says, oh. And there's a question mark. Yeah, that's not Hibiki, that's the guy. So if you look at the Japanese, o, and then ore no aiji ni natte kudasai. That's just, it's him stammering. So that's actually him saying the o. So please be my mistress, not your girlfriend. Patron B, please be my mistress. Don't you mean girlfriend? Patron C, please, will you be my mistress? Wait, not your girlfriend? I like wait. Patron D, would you be my mistress? Don't you mean girlfriend? So most of the patrons did don't you mean girlfriend, and I think I said don't you mean girlfriend too when I was just doing my sort of initial very fast interpretation, but I actually like Patron C's wait, not your girlfriend. I just think it's funny. Don't you mean girlfriend is funny too, and it definitely works. I think just wait, not your girlfriend made me chuckle because it's not what I had originally thought of, and oh, that's cool. Yeah, most of these are the same, except note that some of the patrons said please be my mistress. Patrons A and B, please, and then patrons C and D were will you and would you. Just a reminder that kudasai does not always mean please. Like, you don't always have to render kudasai as please. Also, like, whenever anyone asks anyone out, in a manga especially, it almost always ends with kudasai, like, tsukiatte kudasai, ore no kanojo ni natte kudasai, something like that. I don't know, like, do kids these days say, please be my girlfriend? I don't know, I personally think it just sounds a little unnatural. It's usually will you, or would you, if it's a question like that, not please. Although, in this, I don't know, for this story, I think please be my mistress is funny, and this guy is being awkward AF, so I think that works too, personally. Although, just in most cases, you would want to go with something like will you or would you be my mistress, and everybody rendered Aijin as mistress, that's what I would have chosen. There are other ways. I don't know how else really you would have worded that. You would have had to do a more roundabout way. But yeah, your mistress. I personally very much like mistress. As you'll see later, the guys at the school call her Aijin. They call her mistress. I think that works super well in English, actually. I think it works better in English that her nickname be mistress, because it has, like, dominatrix vibes with it as well. Or just, like, master sort of vibes to it. So I really like mistress, personally. Okay, so the next Japanese page. So she's sighing and looking all sexy without meaning to, and going, ha, which is sigh. Mo, that's short for mogu mogu, which is chewing sound effects, and she's eating melon pan, melon bread. So this is her friend Mameko. I love her. She's probably my favorite character so far. Hibiki-chan, with a little squiggle. Ii kagen tachi naori na yo. That was pronounced terribly. Ii kagen tachi naori na yo. 彼氏に振られてもう1ヶ月、1月、経ったんでしょ? So her friend's saying, hey, just get over it already, dude. Like, hasn't it been a month since your boyfriend dumped you? And she's like, just like a little soft grunt, as one does in Japanese. あと、落ち込むとひたすら猫の絵描くのやめよ。怖い。And then as an aside, in that little text outside the bubble, she's saying, 意外と好きだよね、そういうの. And then the neko picture is saying, neko! So she's saying, あと、also, or one more thing, 落ち込むとひたすら猫の絵描く. So whenever you get depressed, you just, like, draw a bunch of pictures of cats. Like, could you stop doing that? Or maybe give it a rest. Kawaii. Like, you're scaring me. It's scary. 意外と好きだよね、そういうの. It's like, I'm kind of surprised that you like things like that. That's kind of what that is. Like, you wouldn't expect to look at this, like, sex object that she likes cutesy little things like scribbling cat graffiti. Also, just personal note, I think part of why this story really resonates with me is, like, as an asexual person, I hate being sexualized against my will. Like, I'll dress the way I just want to dress, and, like, people will think that I'm doing it for attention, or that, like, I think a lot of feminine people can relate to this as well, but, like, that's especially why I really relate to this. It's like, she's not bad, she's just drawn that way. So yeah. Anyway, it's like, I'm kind of surprised that you like this sort of thing being, drawing cute cats. And then Hibiki says, ごめんね。でもまだ立ち直れないよ. Very, very cliche. Sorry, but I still can't, get back on my feet. I still can't get over it. I still can't move on. だって本当に大好きだったんだよ. It's like, so datte, this is always a hard one to translate. I have a video about how I hate translating datte and sasuga. So datte is like, I mean, come on, but Mameko. It's like, but come on. It's kind of like that. 本当に大好きだったんだよ. I really loved him so much. And then, like this very sexy sigh. Let's look at some patron translations, because this is a lot of words already. Okay, patron A. Munch munch, melon bread. Hibiki's friend. Hibiki-chan, get over it already. Hasn't it been a whole month since your boyfriend dumped you? Hibiki, Also, could you quit obsessively drawing cats whenever you're depressed? It's creepy. Aside, I wouldn't have guessed you liked them so much. Cats. Sorry, I still just can't get over it though. I mean, I truly loved him, you know? Ah. Okay, patron B. Sigh. Nom nom. Hibiki, just get over him already. It's been a whole month since he broke up with you. Yeah. At least stop constantly doodling cats. It's creepy. Who knew you were so into them? Cats! Sorry, but I just can't forget him. Okay, patron C. Sigh. Munch munch. Hey, Hibiki, just forget about him already. It's been a month since he dumped you, right? Yeah. And maybe stop drawing all those cats when you feel down. It's scary. You really do like them, huh? Kitties. I'm sorry. I can't forget about him yet. And then patron D. Sigh. Chew. Melon pun. Chew. Hey, Hibiki, get over him already. Hasn't it been a month? I know you draw cats to feel better, but can you stop? It's freaky. You're more into cute things than you look. Cats. Sorry, but I can't yet. Personally, the yet at the end is a little odd for me, although it's correct. I think it's more natural to say, but I'm not there yet. In that case, yet might work. I can't yet. I don't know. Maybe that's just weird for me. I'm not there yet. It's too soon. I just can't forget him is fine for patron B. That works for me. I still just can't get over it, though. A little wordy. I still just can't get over him. But I still just can't get over him. The though at the end is a little odd for me, but not wrong. I like everybody's sound effects for cats, kitties. I really like patron A also. Could you quit obsessively drawing cats whenever you're depressed? It's creepy. I like a couple patrons rendered kawaii as creepy instead of scary. Creepy is better. Freaky is kind of nice too. Like patron D's. Makes it sound almost like a fetish. You're more into cute things than you look. That's a very, very correct translation, but it's not funny. And sometimes it's just not funny, and that's okay. It's not always going to be funny. I think one of the other patrons worded it more funny. I wouldn't have guessed you liked them so much is a little unclear. Liked them, liked what? I guess drawing cats, I wouldn't have guessed you liked cats so much, maybe. Instead of them, just to clarify it a little bit. Who knew you were so into them? I like that wording. It's nice and short, too. Nice and short and punchy. And again, it preserves the meaning. The meaning was translated very well by patron D. You're more into cute things than you look. That is, very correct. But the wording of who knew you were so into them, I think that's funnier. Again, the them is maybe a little bit vague, like who knew you were so into cats, or who knew you were so into cute things, but again, it's punchy as it is. You really do like them, huh? That kind of works too. Again, the them is a little vague, although if you see that right next to the balloon where she's talking about cats, I think it's a little clearer. It's just on pieces of paper like this, it's a little unclear. Yeah, I still just can't get over it, though. It really should be him. Instead of it. It being the breakup, but him is stronger. But I just can't forget him. I like forget over. Again, it's a way of concisely wording it. Instead of get over, forget. Just one word. It's a lot cleaner, and it's pretty much the same thing. Patron C did that as well. I can't forget about him yet. Patron D, sorry, but I can't yet. That's a nice way of shortening it as well. Even though we're removing the I can't get over him or I can't forget about him yet, she's answering Mameko when she says get over him already, but I can't yet. So it still works. Patron A, I truly loved him, Truly is a little odd. Most people don't say things like that. I personally like it. It sounds more poetic instead of something like really. I truly loved him, I like the I was really crazy about him, I like that. Sometimes it's really hard to know how to render stuff like daisuki and ski, because like and love, in English we say we love everything. And again, when you're translating shoujo romance and josei romance to an extent as well, the whole daisuki thing is always really hard to know how you're going to translate words like that, because again, if you have a character saying ski, ski, ski regarding another character and you've been rendering it as love all this time, then in the next scene he says like aishiteru or daisuki or something, and then it's this big pivotal moment in their relationship and you're like, well crap, there's nowhere to go from love. Where do I go from there? So it is nice to render daisuki with other more creative words like crazy about, or, you know, had a crush, or even something like I was really fond of, you know, other words like that, so that you're not using the stronger words like and love that are a little more hierarchical, I guess is my point. So I was really crazy about him. Patron C, I really did love him, you know, very similar to Patron A. I really loved him, you know. Patron D, same thing. Patron B is the only one that did a more unique I was really crazy about. Okay, so we're stopping here for now on a big cliffhanger, but I really loved him. Ooh, epic. Anyway, tune in a couple weeks. That's when part 2 of Furare Girl will go up. Anyway, thanks to the patrons who participated in this series and the other series on my channel, with special thanks to Tony Hoyt, Matt Mac, Brent, Velos, Roel, Cody Spence, Alexei, Lay, Jacob Bell, Greg, Henry Roaming, and Data Fox. See you next time, maybe.